I want you to stop using the word forgiveness. I believe this is a word that we use loosely, that we don't really know what it means. For example, when we make a mistake, we tend to, and this was since we were little, we tend to ask for forgiveness. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. We bring gifts. We make promises. We do all these kinds of things. But what are we looking for? For the other person to let us off the hook. For the other person not to be mad, sad, to ground us. All these kinds of things. The other way, I forgive you. It's like I have a power over you. It's like I can manipulate you to saying, I'll see when I forgive you. That's what we've come up to. And we tend to use it very loosely also. So we can say, yeah, I'll forgive you. But I won't forget. So when you make a mistake, I'll come back at you and say, you remember when you did this? Is that really forgiveness? Third thing, and I used to say this also, and I'm changing this a lot. We read in books and we hear all these people talk about self-forgiveness. Forgive yourself. How? How do you forgive yourself? What does it look like? What should I do? How do I know if I forgave myself or not? It's really confusing for me. So I want to change this word and make it something different, more practical, more that we can use and empower ourselves. That's what I believe in a lot. A couple of videos ago, I spoke about the shadow and how what we see in others, what we believe they do unto us, what really gets to us of other people from their actions, from their emotions, all these kinds of things, it's something that we don't want to recognize in ourselves, that we really don't want to see, that we want to look, we reject in ourselves. So I said in that video, if somebody is doing something onto us, if we're bothered by somebody else, it's not so much saying that I forgive you, forgive me, and all these kinds of things. It's like, I believe it's appreciation. Thank you, gratitude, because you're showing something in me that I can change. Something that's become unconscious, something that I really don't want to feel. And you're showing this through yourself. So thank you for being that person, for showing, for doing what you did, so I can learn about this. When I forgive others, I believe we should say, I'm sorry, assume the responsibility. But from there on, what else can we really do? If the other person wants to stay mad with us, it's really, I have nothing else to do here. And probably, and I remember when I worked with some people in addicts, in the foundation with addictions, I remember one case of this guy, he used to say to me, my son doesn't forgive me. And I'm like, okay, but what is happening here? Yeah, I always say, forgive me, please. I'm sorry for what I did. What is even better than saying I'm sorry? Actions. Actions are louder than words. So if you say I'm sorry and you ask for forgiveness and then you do the same stuff again, really, why don't you just show yourself through actions? You admit your responsibility, not putting it on the other person. I'm sorry for what I did, but look what you did. No, it's I'm sorry for what I did. I assume my responsibility, how I responded, what I did, what I didn't do. And from then on, I'll let go. And I'll start showing through my actions who I am differently. And for me, self-forgiveness has to do with acceptance. Pure and utter acceptance. I believe that we should come up to a point that we should accept the good and the bad. We should start coming up to the point that this is where we make amends with us. That when we start looking at ourselves and I say, I love you, independent. Not because or when or changing this or independent of that. And these days I heard a person speak about, oh, I love myself, although I have this thing in my face or dark eyes or something like that. I'm like, really? That's not love. That's not acceptance. I accept myself with all who I am. If there's something that probably it's not good for me, I'll change it. But first I have to accept it. So I believe there's no forgiveness. I don't have to forgive myself for anything, because look at it this way. if I don't have the information, I might do a lot of mistakes. If I don't know myself enough, if I don't know my triggers, if I don't know my fears, I'm going to make a lot of mistakes, yes. Until I get to know them, I'm going to start trying to change them. This is like riding a bicycle. The first time you took a bicycle, it's not like you're going to be able to ride it perfectly the first time. You're going to go down to the street and you're going to take it and you'll fall off it several times until you start getting it. Even after you start getting onto it, then you learn how to do it more rapidly. You take curves. You do all these different things, but you start and you continue learning. Do you have to forgive yourself because you fell down from a bicycle and you scraped your knee? No. It's the same thing here. We have to assume a responsibility. I assume a responsibility in a bicycle. Okay, I scraped my knee because I didn't know how to do it. How can I learn how to do it better? Can somebody teach me, or should I practice even more? The same thing happens here with myself. So saying that I forgive myself for me has to do with saying I did something wrong. How did I do something wrong if I didn't know how to do it differently? Second, if I'm trying to change, obviously I have habits. I've been doing this for the same way as been doing it for 30, 40, 50 years. Cut yourself some slack. Tell yourself in this moment, I accept what I did. How can I do it differently? I'm not going to stand and complain about it or nag about it or tell, this is somebody else's responsibility. It's my responsibility. And as soon as I start accepting myself and start loving myself, then I don't have to forgive myself because I feel in peace with myself. So let's start looking at how we use forgiveness with ourselves, with others towards ourselves, and see if we're giving away our power, if we're using it out of fear instead of love. Thank you so much. I wish you a life of love, of happiness, and being yourself.